August 19, 1940, he said, "Mr. Speaker, in order that the American people may have a clearer understanding of those who, over a period of years, have been undermining this republic, in order to return it to the British Empire, I have inserted in the record a number of articles to prove this point. These articles are entitled Steps Towards British Union, a World State and International Strife. This is part one, and in this I include a hope expressed by Mr. Andrew Carnegie in his book entitled Triumphant Democracy. In this he expresses himself in this manner. Let men say what they will, I say that it is as surely as the sun in the heavens once shone upon Britain and America united, so surely is it one morning to rise, to shine upon, to greet the reunited states, the British-American Union. Before 1917, foreign influence came mainly from Anglo-American groups. Since the World War, these groups have been fortified by the international financiers and the internationalists, or so-called minority group. The pressure is therefore more than double, for combined, these groups control all avenues of communication and are now using them to further their plan of British domination to establish a world federation of states. Let me call your attention to the fact that on the reverse seal of the great United States, which appears on our dollar bill, you will find the exact symbol of the British Israel World Federation movement. This symbol is also carried on literature of other organizations promoting a world government and a world religion. At the bottom of the circle surrounding the pyramid, you will find the wording Novus Ordo Seclorum. It was this new order that was advocated by Clinton Roosevelt several hundred years ago, recently in Philip Drew, and now followed by the executive. Do you not think, as good American people, that the administration has gone far from constitutional government, when there is inscribed a symbol on the reverse of our great seal that advocates a new order? Yes, an order which means the destruction of our republic as formulated in the Constitution of the United States? It may also interest you to know that this contemplated union now, as advocated by Clarence Strait, will be under the control of Great Britain and is a movement to return the United States as a colony to the British Empire. Should we become a part of this union, our traditional rights and liberties will be lost, and we will have no greater status than an English possession. This was the dream of Cecil Rhodes and Andrew Carnegie. And that's right. Steps toward a British Union, a world state, and international strife. I will put links to my website, howardnema.com. And those are put into the Congressional Record on August 20th, 1940. Marx and Engels claimed to be scientific socialists and distinguished themselves from the utopian socialists of earlier generations, even though in reality their own view of original human society was idealized and the final human society they envisioned was utopian. For the Marxists, socialism was viewed as a transitional stage in history of the human social development characterized by state ownership of the means of production and a dictatorship of the proletariat. They argue that the stage in history would be a transition. Isn't that interesting? Transformation, right? They argued that this stage in history would be a transition between the capitalism that currently existed and the ideal communist society that would mark the final stage of human history and would be marked by a withering away of the state and the full realization of human potential. Now this goes into actually transhumanism, because yes, once we are fully transformed into transhumanism, the state needs for the state won't be there. Once they bring about this new world order they're working for, many things will not be required. And if you can think of a way that they're working to wither away the powerful state they have created, you can only imagine one way that it could be put into place. They'd have to get rid of a lot of people. Kaiser Wilhelm, who first instituted socialized medicine, can be credited with the beginnings of the modern welfare state that gradually spread across Europe and the United States. In 1871, in the wake of another war funded by Marx's cousin Nathan Rothschild, the Franco-Prussian War, a Hegelian uprising was fomented likened to Al Sharpton's paid agitation in Ferguson and Baltimore and the George Soros-funded Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matter crowd. Out of the festering paid agitator violence in 1871, the Paris Commune was established. The 92 members of the communal council included a high proportion of skilled workers and several professionals. Many of the 92 members were political activists, the puppets of the day, ranging from reformist Republicans, various types of socialists, to the Jacobin Illuminati behind the French Revolution of 1889. The number set 92, I might add, is significant. 9 plus 2 equals 11. 9/11. The numbers 9, 11, and 22 have significant meaning to the Illuminati. Just a side note. Toward the end of the 19th century, social democratic parties arose in Europe, drawing mainly from the Illuminati theories of Marxism. In 1884, British middle-class intellectuals organized the Fabian Society. The Fabians helped lay the groundwork for the organization of the Labor Party in 1906. In the U.S., the Socialist Labor Party was founded in 1877. This party, small as it was, became fragmented in the 1890s. In 1901, a moderate faction of the party joined with Eugene Debs to form the Socialist Party of America. In America, an alliance of farming groups created the Populist Party in 1892, which came to be known as the National People's Party. With their slogan, "The People Against the Tycoons," they fought for an increase in currency circulation, free silver, labor reform, a graduated income tax, government ownership of the railroads, and the direct election of U.S. senators. By 1896, they were almost fully integrated into the Democratic Party, while their principles were later embraced by the Progressive Party. The Progressive Party was a coalition of socialists, labor leaders, and farmers organized by Republican Senator Robert M. La Follette of Wisconsin in 1911. To oppose the conservatism of the Republican Party and to fight for an aggressive program of social legislation. Their efforts led to important and significant improvements in the lives of the working class. Child labor laws and the 8-hour workday were established, as were food and product safety, better sanitation, workplace safety, and many other beneficial consumer protections. They also provided support for the effort, which would eventually give women the right to vote. But their efforts fell very short when compared to the many incremental abuses and losses of freedom, overregulation, and selective enforcement favoring the growing shift toward socialism. Unfortunately, these changes also bloated the size of government far beyond our founders' intention. Despite the many positive changes, the Progressive Party was responsible for and guilty of inflicting the most possible harm on the average American by wielding enough influence to pass the Federal Reserve Act, the federal income tax, and the 17th Constitutional Amendment, which provided for the direct election of U.S. senators rather than being appointed by state legislators. These moves led to inflation, dollar devaluation, and incredible debt. It also allowed big money interests and PACs to buy senators, much like they have bought presidents. It is admitted that the 1896 election was bought by John D. Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, and Andrew Carnegie. This was even contained in the History Channel documentary, The Men Who Built America, which should have been called The Men Who Stole America. H.W. Brands, the secret society's go-to historian, added that today, such buying of an election could never happen as the media is so much larger and widespread. Well, today 90% of the media is owned by only 6 corporations, so if you buy H.W. Brands bullshit, I have 2, not 1 bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. The Federal Reserve Act, the personal income tax, and the 17th Amendment must be repealed. It has led to endless war, economic ruin, and increasing losses of individual freedom. This new freedom, as President Woodrow Wilson titled his 1913 book, isn't freedom at all. Wilson was drawn into World War I by the elite forces of the secret societies operating behind the scenes. He made note of these forces on page 24 of his book. Quote, "Since I entered politics, I have chiefly had men's views confided to me privately. Some of the biggest men in the United States in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of something, somebody. They know that there is a power somewhere so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive, that they had not better speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it. They know that America is not a place of which it can be said, as it used to be, that a man may choose his own calling and pursue it just as far as his abilities enable him to pursue it, because today, if he enters certain fields, There are organizations which will use means against him that will prevent his building up a business which they do not want to have built up. Organizations that will see to it that the ground is cut from under him and the markets shut against him." End quote. As a result, this power, known as the Order of the Quest, or the Illumined Ones, brought America into the First World War, and Wilson sold America down the river, creating the very engine used to fund World War I and the Bolshevik Revolution, the Federal Reserve System. In June 1917, the first tyranny of the modern-day New World Order came to pass when President Woodrow Wilson signed the Espionage Act. Hundreds were convicted and jailed for speaking out against the war. On June 16, 1918, after visiting 3 socialists imprisoned in Canton, Ohio, former socialist presidential candidate Eugene V. Debs made a 2-hour speech condemning the Great War and urging resistance to the military draft. He was immediately arrested and convicted under the espionage and sentenced to 10 years in prison. You see, tyranny and the suppression of free speech and indefinite detention in America is nothing new. President Woodrow Wilson called Debs a traitor to his country. Because the war was so profitable to the elite, any dissent against World War I was targeted in the media. Nationalist, pro-war, and anti-German propaganda permeated American society. Anti-German propaganda films played in theaters, newspapers, and billboards depicting Germans as apes and barbaric rapists who threw infants into the air and skewered them with their bayonets. None of it was true. Does this all sound familiar to you? They put the incubators, they took the babies out of the incubators and put them out to die. Saddam is an evil man.
While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor.
I myself buried 14 newborn babies that had been taken from their incubators.
Kids in incubators, and they were thrown out of the incubators so that Kuwait could be systematically dismantled.
Right. Nothing's new. That's why history repeats itself, and they even use the same playbook, ladies and gentlemen. So Debs went to prison on April 13, 1919. In Al Sharpton fashion, Charles Ruthenberg led a parade of Unionists, Socialists, Anarchists, and Communists to march on May Day, May 1st, 1919, in Cleveland, Ohio, to protest Debs' imprisonment. The event quickly turned into a riot, the infamous May Day riots of 1919. Are you beginning to see the patterns of history? Because they do always repeat themselves. Vladimir Lenin's successful October Revolution in 1917, funded by the American banks, was the dawn of the Red Scare across Europe and the United States. Anarchy was fomented to create social unrest. In 1920, anarchists bombed Wall Street and sent a number of mail bombs to prominent businessmen like J.D. Rockefeller and government leaders like Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. A wave of fear swept the country, stirred up by newspapers and yellow journalism, giving support for the Justice Department to deport thousands of non-citizens active in the far left. U.S. Attorney General Palmer, a Wilsonian Democrat, set out to stop the communist conspiracy operating inside the United States and created a new division of the Justice Department, which is now the FBI, called the General Intelligence Division, led by a young J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover soon amassed a card catalog system with 60,000 radically inclined individuals and many leftist groups and publications. This system has evolved into the massive NSA spy campaign and database revealed in 2012 by NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden, who once again our government considers a traitor, an enemy of the state. It's incredible. The real enemy of the United States government are the American people. The real threat to the criminal enterprises operating with protection by our government are we the people. After World War II, the emergence of the New Left in the 50s led to the creation of the House on Un-American Activities Committee, HUAC. In the 60s, the New Left led a revival of anarchism. Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky, journals like Radical America and Black Mask in America, Solidarity, Big Flame, and Democracy in Nature, succeeded by the International Journal of Inclusive Democracy in the UK, introduced a wide range of leftist ideas to a new generation. The New Left in the United States also included anarchist, countercultural, and hippie-related radical groups such as the Yippies, who were led by Abbie Hoffman, the Diggers, up against the wall motherfuckers